Welcome back to the Hoopstemple podcast. I, for some reason, feel like that music was much louder in the intro than it normally is, even though I changed nothing about my settings. Y'all know me, Nathan Schwartz, and joining me from Sacramento, Aaron Schroeder. Aaron, how's it going?
Great. I'm doing much better than last episode. Last episode was my flu game where I was hungover, and this episode I'm in my prime. I'm ready to rank the true deep cuts. See, I was able to get by on half health through the top 100 guys, but I need my mind in the right place for the outside the top 100 players.
I mean, there will be deeper and deeper cuts the more we get to podcast, just as we get through the end of the top 500, and as we possibly move into the top 550. There's been requests for us to go even deeper. I think so that way more people can do top 500s and rip off our list and make changes to it. But you know what? That's just me being cynical about wanting to know who should be there next. So get locked in for some Steven Adams versus D'Angelo Russell conversation in a few months.
And I forget who those two players were. I tweeted. It was like my biggest tweet ever when I was doing that. I'm like looking at my top 500. I think it was DeAndre Ayton and somebody else.
DeJounte Murray.
DeJounte Murray. Making that comparison, people were like really into it. Like, man, like who is the better player?
I feel like that it was one of the ultimate. If I scrolled past that like 6 years ago or something, before we had started on this endeavor, before we talked about it with each other, I'd be like, that guy just needs to go touch grass. That man really, he needs a new hobby, a new thing in life.
Yeah, you know what? They're right, and they're right. We do need to touch grass, and we could use a hobby. But this is our hobby. We put players in order.
Mm-hmm.
I do think DeAndre Ayton should move down on our list. That's a spoiler for later. I mean, I always say like if you're in the NBA, it's really hard to move down. But he sucks, and he's still playing, and he still sucks, and he's sucked for years now. And him being in our top 500 when there are guys who are good at basketball outside of it kind of hurts.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I have notes on a couple of guys that I think we should move down historically as well as modern wise, but I wanted to at least get through all of our modern re-ranks and then maybe bring up some of my own historical qualms with the list, maybe when we're scraping the barrel for content. And I don't even know when we're going to scrape the barrel for content, because the NBA is a 12-month cycle. Really, we need 2 more months. We need like a leap month in here to have a down month for cycle content.
I was gonna say scrape the barrel. I'm drowning in the barrel. I'm swimming laps in the barrel right now. This is the part of the season that I actually enjoy. I don't the basketball portion is like fine, and then this is the part I actually want to participate in.
It's so bad. I love and I hate that about you. But before we get into the re-ranks, because I love starting our podcast on somewhat aimless preambles and whatnot. If you are watching on the YouTube,
wow,
which you should be. If you're not, please check us out. Leave us a like, a review, something. Help us grow the pod. Give us that thumbs up. I put together a little table here of all of the times certain things have happened. So there have been at least 136 different players who have made All-NBA first team once or more. So this is how many times it's happened or more. So if you've made 2, you're still included in that 1 times or more column. There have been 534 players in NBA ABA history to make 1 All-Star appearance. I did this because I think as people make suggestions and make arguments for guys, having some sort of context as how many times certain players have done certain things is useful in helping to shape and craft those narratives. But if you're saying this guy should be top 50, he is a 3-time All-Star, I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say 211 people have made 4 or more All-Star appearances. 3 All-Star appearances is not impressive. That is a net negative against his case. You have to tell me why his 3 All-Star appearances are worth more than someone else's 4 or 5 or 6. Just things like that. That type of deal. If you're going to say, hey, this guy has made 3 All-NBA second teams, I'm going to look at this and say, okay, well, 56 or 57 guys have made 3 or more All-NBA second teams, but actually, I think I screwed up the formula there or here. Yeah, I never carried that down. Ignore the first and second team column. because that is the copying of the All-Star or selections after the first time. But you're gonna have of close to like 100 guys who did it, who made first and second teams 3 or more times. So it's just some things to keep in mind and kind of contextualize when people are writing and making their arguments. Because I love seeing them, but you got to understand what the arguments are that you're making.
No, I really love this. Do you want to pause recording for a second and fix that column?
Yeah. There we go. That column is now fixed through the magical work of editing. So, 78 people have made 3 or more first and second teams. So, just things to keep in mind and to think about. And I want to do a bit of that preamble because I am loving these listener emails. Speaking of which, we got I'm still going to say Gavin's email is the greatest, but this is the greatest single player email we have ever received. And I wanted to show it in its entirety in micro print because that is
yeah.
That's the only way I could get this bad boy on here, aside from like clustering it up and blocking it all up. This is size 7 font, which is tiny, and so I'm not going to read all of it. Unless Aaron, do you want to read all of this?
I'm pretty good at reading. I could take a stab out of here. I have the email. All right, let's get through this. Okay. This is from Cole. Sea Dog. All right, let's get through this. It says, I have listened to every single all-time rankings episode to date, an admission of extreme basketball perversion that I start with, partly because I think it lends oh fuck, I ran into a word. Credence. Credence.
I'm pretty good at reading.
To my forthcoming line of argumentation, and partly because I like to make it clear to Aaron, that's me, that yes, there are listeners such as myself who are interested in holding him accountable for his opinions on the history of the National Basketball Association. I understand that this may result in a great deal of distress and consternation for Aaron. This guy's throwing tough words at me, man. I understand that he has spent the better part of the summer rebuking Knick fans on TikTok who believe that their favorite players are ranked too low. I get it. The point still stands. Yes, you are underrating Jalen Brunson. This is a Jalen Brunson email. Then he targets you, Nate. He says, Nate, do you remember that whole Patrick Ewing over David Robinson thing you had going? I like that you get targeted for that because that was like me as well. Yeah, Nate, what were you talking about? It's understandable no longer. It's understandably no longer the case now, but the thesis went something like this. If a guy's teams just win over and over again with him being the clear first option, you at some point have to give him credit over the consensus better player who over and over again just loses. I'm not going to waste a great deal of time here vying for him over Tony Parker, who obviously benefited from an all-time team infrastructure and whose finals MVP comes from a series his team was, even without his spectacular play, never in real danger of losing. Or Reggie Miller, whose best accolade is his true shooting percentage. Instead,
Amen.
I'm going to try to justify a far more ambitious leap by way of a head-to-head you probably haven't even considered. Why should Brunson be below Grant Hill? All right. If this strikes you as Jesus, man, is implausible.
Sound it out. Hooked on phonics.
I'm not hooked on phonics. As an implausible proposition, to consider the following. We are talking about 5 All-NBA second team selections and 1 All-NBA first team for Hill versus 3 All-NBA second team selections for Brunson. This gap is sizable, but we're ultimately arguing for one very good but very short peak over another. Number 2, Jalen Brunson has already played in twice as many playoff games as Grant Hill. That matters a lot. Number 3, from 1996 to 2000, with Hill not yet having suffered career derailing injuries, he averaged 19.6 points, 6.9 rebounds, 5.6 assists on 98 true shooting plus, which is true shooting percentage as a percentage of league average. Moreover, his years as the de facto top dog in Detroit account for only 4 playoff appearances and 15 total postseason games. As a Knick, Brunson is averaging nearly 29.4 points, 3.6 rebounds, and 6.6 assists on 98 true shooting plus. I understand that the difference in ability on the other side of the ball is large, but it's not like Hill was making all defensive teams. He was just very good. Also, again, consider that Brunson is putting those numbers up while having played more playoff games of each of the past 2 seasons than Hill ever did as a Piston. That is true. Okay, number 4. Even if you're going to make a case that role player Grant Hill was a better role player than Jalen Brunson, the difference in playoff ability is staggering. Brunson's final Maverick years saw him average 21.6, 4.6 / 3.6, including back-to-back 41 and 31 point performances with Luka absent to go up 2-1 on the Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert Jazz. What's Grant Hill's best post-prime run? Is it averaging 15, 5.5, and 3.8 and getting subbed out of the first round in 2007? Is it averaging 9.6 / 5.8 / 2.3 and making the Western Conference Finals in 2010, which Brunson also does in the aforementioned Dallas year? Whew. I am like churning through this. I've only run into 3 words that I can't pronounce, which is good. Which is good. I think between the two of us, this is a really good reading performance.
Aaron, heads up, Homeristic is coming for you. Just be careful.
That's so funny. Okay, wait. Okay. Well, these are tough, man. This may strike you as a homeristic exercise in cruelty toward the snake-bitten Hill. After all, we all know that he was a great guy, which the trademark sign is on, which is awesome. And could have done so much more if his leg didn't explode. Brunson actually does that much more, though. He is a finals MVP. He has made 3 conference finals. He's one of the 5 players to win a title while leading the playoffs in scoring average, winning Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, LeBron James, and Shaquille O'Neal. And listen, can I just say it? Grant Hill's first team All-NBA is pretty weak. Gary Payton and Patrick Ewing each lead their teams to 3 more wins, but it was in the era of positional voting. Brunson is getting second team and in a time when that really means he was a top 10 player. I don't think Hill was much better, if at all, even in the regular season. I can hear the dismissal incoming. You're going to say something about longevity. You're going to run through the hypothetical exercise of Brunson being obliterated by an oncoming train tomorrow. Man, did he already listen to the last episode? Is that already up? I did say something about him exploding, man. You're going to hit me with eventually next year. Hey, I get it. To try to dissuade you, though, I'll leave you with a few final pieces of propaganda. Brunson is historically good at avoiding turnovers. If you look at players scoring as often as he is, he's the only ones to cover the ball at a lower rate are Kiki Vanderway, who isn't passing the rock anyway, SGA, and Michael Jordan. He is consistently in the 2 to 2.5 turnover range, which just doesn't happen for players with such a significant offensive role. Data Baller's O turnover, which estimates per possession impact on a team offense through turnover avoidance, has him top 5 in the league every single year he's been in Nick. That's pretty cool. Did you know that?
I did not know that, but I want to point one thing out in this one. I'll let you finish reading the email. Then I want to go through these last 3 that he actually had bulleted with numbers here. This point 1.
This is such a. I'm really happy we are reading this because even though I read at a 6th grade level, this guy. I mean, this is just such a great argument. Okay. Number 2, Brunson has already had one of the greatest playoff scoring peaks ever. His total points rank above the likes of Gary Payton, Allen Iverson, Moses Malone, Steve Nash, Walt Frazier, Oscar Robertson, David Robertson, Elvin Hayes, Rick Barry, Damian Lillard, Hal Greer, and Carmelo Anthony. His points per game, which, mind you, include the Dallas years, rank above Hakeem Olajuwon, Kobe Bryant, Dominique Wilkins, Dirk Nowitzki, Joel Embiid, Karl Malone, Larry Bird, Jason Tatum, Shaquille O'Neal, Charles Barkley, Dwayne Wade, Will Chamberlain, and Kareem. Brunson is historically good in the clutch. This is point number 3. Brunson is historically good in the clutch. Clutch Player of the Year is a very new award, but he's won it 1 year and finished top 5 in voting every single season of its existence. From author Lev Akabas, who wrote recently on this very topic, quote, since the NBA began tracking play-by-play data in the 97 postseason, 77 players who have taken at least 50 shots during crunch time. Brunson has scored at the 2nd highest frequency of any of those players at 40.6 points per 36 minutes, only behind Michael Jordan. Players who have scored even just 20 points from the field per 36 minutes of crunch time in the playoffs belong to an exclusive group. Only Donovan Mitchell, Steph Curry, SJ, LeBron, Allen Iverson qualify. End quote. The guy just finds a way to get it done. He does it in the regular season. He does enter to titles. He does it as well and as often as anyone. Dang. Generational ball security, generational scoring, generational clutch performances, consummate winner. Sounds like a top 80 player to me. Best Cole. Wow. With a little help from Nate, I read the entire email. Now, I do feel like it's such a great argument, and I really do feel like there's so much there.
You
Do
want
I
to do
feel
it.
do I
You
feel
want to do it.
abandoned in this moment
I hope you
because
do.
we
I want you to feel
legit
abandoned.
I
I want you
feel
to feel
no
alone on an island,
I think
unloved.
yeah, no, from you. This is your fault because you we did our all-time ranking in like a pseudo one, and then we
Hmm.
approved of our Brunson ranking, and then I went on the internet and made the case and made a bunch of videos about it, and now I have to come back and change the ranking again.
Yeah, yeah. I say, listen. I told you, do what you got to do. I am going to the beach for 3 days with my family, and then going to Iowa for
Yeah,
3 days because of work. You can tell which one I was probably more excited about. Although actually, both
right.
trips ended up being lovely. If you ever go to Des Moines, check out Fong's Pizza. Not sponsored, but man, their crab ragoon pizza just really hits the spot in so many good places for me. So here I have up
Hey,
our top
that's good.
80. I did not make any movements to our top 100 on the slides because, let's face it, I was prepping for this, and I have limited amount of time, and there's still a ton of debris down around my house from the tornado that touched down, and so
Dang.
between chainsawing and prepping, I didn't have a lot of time to fix older slides. But Grant Hill was at 78, and I listened to this, and I love the fact that he preemptively countered our longevity take, but I do just want to mention a few things within this. It is both longevity of being a role player and longevity of being a star. Grant Hill was a star, quote unquote, for 5 seasons when Cole wrote in and made these brilliant points, these wonderfully well thought out and written points about Jalen Brunson and his tenure as a Knick. That is a 3 year stretch versus a 5 year stretch. When he made comparisons to Grant Hill's post injury fall off, that is a I don't know how many how many years stretch, but that is a decade long stretch versus Brunson's like 3 or 4 year stretch as a role player with the Mavs. Um, I would also just like to say that as much as we are loving this, I mean, as much as the world, because maybe we're on the low end of this, as much as the world is loving and embracing Brunson post playoff run, Aaron, can I ask you how many MVP votes did Jalen Brunson, a man who played 74 games and was easily in consideration for awards ballots, how many MVP votes did he get this year?
Or where was he on that list? I don't know if he got any. Did he get any? No, he
He did not get any.
no, he
He did not get
didn't.
a.
Yeah, I
He
was
did not
just
get
looking at
ace.
it.
And like that is probably an oversight. That is probably undervaluing him. But I think that's notable because when he says that like he was top 10 um, and all NBAs in a positionless world, like that is one indicator to say he is a top 10 player. Grant
Mhm.
Hill was top 10 in MVP voting in all 5 of those seasons. That is another indicator, which is a positionless voting record to indicate that Grant Hill is a top 10 in player. And some would believe top 5 in those seasons.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I think the big point I wanted to make is Grant Hill just drops into the world, and he's like one of the 10 best guys in the league, just automatically. Like I think Brunson. Obviously, we only have like what Grant Hill was able to do, and the injuries did happen. With Brunson, like he's 29 right now, and Grant Hill like had 1 foot by the time he was 28. I feel like the need to give Grant Hill a credit. He was the next guy. Like he was gonna be the next face of the
Mm-hmm.
league. He was on the Michael Jordan like career arc. He was so good. What does 29-year-old Grant Hill look like? Could that have been even better? Like we're kind of judging if we're comparing
We,
them year
we
by
never got to,
year.
but we did never get to see it.
Yeah.
I do think we need to live in reality.
Yeah, no, I get that, but I think that's kind of where we came from with the Grant Hill ranking. A
Mm-hmm.
portion of that is like, hey, like if we're comparing Grant Hill's best seasons, it's when he's 23.
Mm-hmm.
And for the most part, like these other guys, it's going to be when they're 28, 27, and they're more developed, 29 years old or something. And so I think that's kind of where that comes from. But the big thing to consider for this Brunson run, and I mentioned this to you before the podcast started, Karl Anthony Towns like was gonna win Finals MVP and was statistically the best Nick through the first 3 rounds in the playoffs. He was playing so well. It's like Brunson has the best final game of the finals, and he wins Finals MVP, and he's just crowned best player in a title team. And I get that, but, like we're in such a different universe where the Knicks were so good. Brunson
Mhm.
had so much help and so much support, and arguably wasn't the best player in his team through the initial stages of the playoffs. And like Grant Hill isn't in a place for Detroit where that's going to happen. Like these rosters are not very good, and I think it's something to consider as well.
I think it is something to consider. That Grant Hill certainly had a lot less support. I really hate the fact that I want to pick apart this argument, but I also want to make the move. I do think
Mm-hmm.
that ultimately you play the game of basketball to win the title. You play it to win the chip, and we could say, hey, maybe if Grant Hill had the right teammates, he could have gotten it over. We can say that hypothetically. We can break down on the why or why not. Um, and we could talk about some of the other guys, the couple above that, Kevin McHale, Paul Gasol, guys who um, were able to be amazing complementary players, or who were able to be, high level number twos, like 2As,
Mm-hmm.
like people will try to make the case that Pau should have won a Finals MVP, maybe, but it's Kobe's team. In the same way that you could make a case that Cat could have won a Finals MVP, but it's really Brunson's team. And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, Carmelo. Could Carmelo have ever figured it out if you built the right pieces around him, if Amari never got hurt, or if he didn't do X or Y? Maybe, maybe. We talked about Artis Gilmore in the last episode, but how he was this gentle giant that was really hard to actually win with. He just played for freaking ever. You get 20 years of Artis Gilmore, you're never getting an NBA title with Artis Gilmore. So I do kind of want to move away from a little bit of the stats talk because I think that can fall a little bit flat. The
Mm-hmm.
generational ball security is cool and all,
Mm-hmm.
but top five in fewest turnovers with an offensive rate. I'm not entirely sure how that's calibrated. I went and checked some of the more raw numbers of players who scored more than Brunson, which he was 10th in scoring. Three
Mm-hmm.
of them averaged fewer or the same turnovers. That'd be Tyrese Maxey, Kawhi Leonard, and Shea. So it's really cool that he has this number historically, but it also is like, well, he's one of four guys that's currently doing that. The He is 57th in total points in the playoffs, tied with Bob Pettit. We talked about last
Mm-hmm.
time. He's 18th in total in playoff points per game. Really cool over for Dirk and Kobe and Karl Malone. And he mentions that this includes his Dallas numbers. Kobe's includes his like teenage numbers. Carl's includes his late stages, his early stages, and Jalen Brunson is actually behind Trae Young, Luca, Devin Booker, and Donovan Mitchell. That I think that speaks a little bit to the era of
Mm-hmm.
where some of these numbers are coming from. But moving beyond the numbers, he did the thing. He came through and did the freaking thing. I would like to move him to 71.
71. I think
I think you can't tell the story of basketball. You could, if you had to write a book today on the story of the NBA.
one day I'm gonna fucking do this. I'm gonna make this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna write the book of basketball, and it's like everything that's ever happened, but there's like the perforated pages. And so anytime anyone says that stupid fucking argument about tell the story of basketball, I'm just gonna rip the page out. They're designed just to know. Here it is. Read this book. Tell me if you got confused at any point. If you could tell me who's missing at this book with perforated pages, then I would care about this.
Mm-hmm.
I totally get what you're saying. The problem is, um, it's just we already kind of. It's like if we wanted to make this
No, no,
argument, we
no.
should have done it, and we didn't do it, and now it's kind of here. And I still believe that um,
Aaron,
it's
do you
our
remember?
responsibility to kind of piece this through. And we do compare, like, all right, we have like 3 4 great years of Brunson, and we need to value that in comparison to other guys. Like we had Shea in the 50s and then in the 40s and then now he's in the 20s, and like that's
Mhm.
this the progression, or in the 30s, that's the progression of things. And Brunson needs to follow that too. Like we did the same thing with Luca. Jokic was in like he was like 50th when I first did this list. Like everyone does it. I don't want to get
So
ahead of ourselves, and I won't do it.
this is Shea has made 4 All-Star appearances at this point. and we just made the case for him to be a top 40 all-time guy.
He won league
Or
MVP. He won two back-to-back
sorry,
MVPs in
sorry,
a
not
championship.
not top 40. We put him in top. We have him like 31.
No, it's top. It's top 40. It's it.
I'm just saying. Can we not get him above some of these other guys who we know, who we've seen their careers? These guys are neither MVPs nor champions as the main option. Like, it'd be one thing if they were one or the other.
Yeah, I kept looking. I think maybe it's we have Tony Parker too low, because that's what I kept looking at and saying who has the higher MVP finishing, Parker and Brunson.
Parker, but
they're tied. Sorry, they're tied at 5. That was a trick question. They both had a 5th place finish, and the All NBA selections are there, and they're top 10 players about the same amount of time so far. Brunson having a little bit higher of a season this year. And I think you look at Tony Parker played like 17,000 games and won the 4 titles and did all that, and has years where, like, I think after 07, with that Finals MVP, you can look at that and say the system of the structure is there. That's the same thing I said with the Knicks. Like, everyone's supported by the team around them who played the best. Brunson was awesome. Tony Parker was awesome. Like, I just don't think there's no way at this point, with 400 something games played, like we're gonna move him, but he's gonna get some exception, because we're gonna talk about Anthony Edwards soon, and it's like, is Anthony Edwards that far behind Brunson where he's gonna be 40 spots below him or 50 spots? Like,
sure, he didn't do the thing.
He didn't do that, but it's not about the thing. It's about being good at basketball. And
the thing is one of the things.
It's one of the things, but it's not the thing that defines everything.
It doesn't define everything.
Yeah.
It does not define everything. But I think the case is that there have been multiple conference finals runs. There have been multiple playoff pushes. And at this point, hey, Shea last year, we had it in the 40s. After he won a title and MVP. I don't think we need to go quite that high, but that is about 450 games for Shea. So I think we maybe are a little bit too hesitant. Brunson's doing this a little bit later in his career. He came in as a little bit older rookie and took a little bit of time to develop. But I think we were too low. I think you came in conservative. I think that's a fine first choice. And I made the video too. I made a video as well.
I think it's the right thing just to sit on it and say that was the best Evo we've ever gotten ever, and kind of be there. The other thing I wanted to say about like Tony Parker's era, what a superstar does for you has changed so much, and the amount of volume guys see today, I guess, almost make them seem like they're better in a sense. Like, where Brunson, like, let's say I wrote this down. In the first 3 games of the finals, he took 27 shots a game, the same amount of turnovers to assists. He shot 37% of the field, like crazy volume, and like Towns was better over that time. Like, no one in 2013, like when Tony Parker is close to his best, like is gonna have that. It's basically like LeBron and Durant get that kind of volume. But outside of that, like looking at the top 10, I think we did this one together. We had LeBron, Durant, Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, and like Kobe. Like Duncan and Parker in the top 10, their teammates. Westbrook and Durant are in the top 10, their teammates. James Harden just got his own team. It's like the amount of guys that even getting like that kind of volume. If Tony Parker is close in the top 10 and he's taking 14 shots a night, like the volume's just much more spread out. It's more of a team oriented approach. And so I do think like the pure volume of Brunson's scoring numbers is kind of more of a product of the era than than him being so great.
That's why I brought up the fact that he is behind playoff points per game Trae Young, Luka, Devin Booker, and Donovan Mitchell. Several of who we have over him. Or I mean, we've got Luka over him. We have him over Booker, Mitchell, and Trae. But I think we came in a little too conservative. I think we initially over-indexed to Bill Simmons is quick, like he's top 40. We're like, no. That was insane. That was way too high, way too fast as for a player at this age. Another piece of context may be just the fact that we are in the parity era. We are in an era that is made to try to spread out talent. It really does handicap those top teams. Whereas in the past, you pooled talent, and so really like when Magic goes up against Bird, they both have these ultra talented teams, and I hate when people are like, "Ah, Magic had all of this help. That's why he's got more rings than Bird." I'm like, no, no, no. Both of these guys have so much help. That is why guys like Dominique Wilkins don't have rings, but
Mhm.
like they're going up against each other. In the parity era, it does kind of allow each star to really kind of show up and shine and show what they've got. But here, this was a weird year with the Celtics being out kind of due to injury, kind of due to team self combustion. The Pacers, who took out the Knicks the prior year, being out with injuries. But like every year has injuries. Every year, we can go back through and throw an asterisk on every season for X or Y. But I don't. This man came through. This was a 45-point game in the final. What I was critiquing Shea for not doing throughout the series, Brunson did every single fourth quarter and all of Game 5 to really close it out. I think that merits a top 70 position.
I think this is where how like the Catholic Church split up. We're just like I can't reason with it, and you're gonna
It's
nail the doctrine of Jalen
yeah,
Brunson. This
the
email onto
schism.
my front door. This is the
I'm
great
Martin
schism because
Luther. Let me.
I won't do it, and I respect it, and I think we'll get there. But I'm happy with where we landed. Let's just see where Brunson's career ends up, and continue to kind of watch him go.
All right, for the sake of the pod, because we are recording this, I want the listeners to know I am with you. I hear you. You please do not fall on deaf ears. Although the church abandons you,
Yeah.
um, I will cede the point, and we can move on with the top 100 and
All
talk
right.
about why Anthony Edwards should be a top 100 to 120 ish guy. I believe that's where we had him in
Yeah.
our pre-discussions.
I do think if anyone emails us again, you gotta make it a little bit easier for us to read. Between Nate has like, do you think Sac State's gonna take my master's degree away if they ever see that clip? Yeah,
I
like
think MSU might take my English degree away, but listen. I come by this naturally. I spend years in
yeah,
speech therapy for my
yeah,
stutter. Like I'm not
yeah.
reading shit online, and that's not going to end well.
Well, we'll see what happens. All right, where are we at?
We're at where do you want to move Anthony Edwards? As he was outside of the top 140. I believe we both in our notes had moved him somewhere into the top 120 range. Mitch, did you have a spot of where you really like to have
Yeah,
Ant?
let's see where I placed him. I think we ended up with right ahead of Derrick Rose, but right behind Devin Booker. I think Booker, with the longevity piece, similar levels of shooting guard play, got his team to the finals, did all that. He's kind of right there, but I really do feel like Edwards, more than Booker, has been kind of a consistent presence as he's come along, even at his age of 24. Like he's been so much better on a similar trajectory, but or at the same age, basically. He's better than Booker was.
Mm-hmm.
The Wolves have been winners. They beat Jokic for fun in the playoffs. They make the conference finals twice, and Edwards really the face of that. And I think right around there is fair.
Yeah, I would also say that Edwards had a little bit of a lackluster regular season from his typical standpoint. Missed a fair amount of games, played just, what was it, 61, 62 games this year, which unfortunately excluded him from All NBA and MVP votes, a thing that talent-wise, I think he would have qualified for both had he been available. And then the playoffs, a little bit of a tougher playoff push for Ant this year due to injuries. I mean, they split the initial two games with Denver. He then goes out. I think he gets hurt or he gets hurt in Game 4 versus Denver. Or
Mm-hmm.
the team splits the first two games in San Antonio without him. When he comes back, I've got all my things mixed up here in my notes. They split the first two games with him severely limited against San Antonio. Games 3 through 6 with Ant looking a little bit better, but still hampered. He puts up 28 points on good but not great shooting splits, 46, 37, 82, along with 6 rebounds and 3 assists in games 3 through 6. It's a fine playoffs given the injuries. I certainly wouldn't knock him for anything that happened in these playoffs, but it's not the big mover and shaker. So I'm okay with him leapfrogging Derrick Rose, although the youngest MVP does kind of have a fun weight to it, but there's just been more playoff success, and at this point, longer sustained successes.
Yeah, essentially, like given Rose basically has like these 3 seasons, these 3
Mm-hmm.
All-Star seasons. The third he gets injured for. In the first, he's just like an all-star and a pretty
Mm-hmm.
good player and like a very exciting young player. And he plays really well in the playoffs that season, but it's still kind of getting started. Like, I mean, at this point, like Edwards is he was great when he was 19. Like he was second rookie of the year voting. He just put up numbers, 20 points a game in his second season. Third season, he's an all-star. Now he's just every year all-star, all NBA, second team twice, seventh MVP voting twice. I feel like the jump shooting is really what makes Edwards. If I genuinely had to pick a player to build around, like even given health, I do kind of look at Edwards as the way he could shoot the ball, the way he's developed into one of the best 3-point shooters that makes him more intriguing than what Derrick Rose is bringing. Because
Mm-hmm.
even though the athleticism and the rim pressure from Rose is so special, like Edwards, he's one of the best playoff performers like the league has ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
He averages 26 a night in the playoffs, like 37% from three, nearly 8 attempts per game. He just bends defenses, wins playoff series in a way that I mean, Derrick Rose made the playoffs. He wasn't great. Like he doesn't have like great playoff runs in the limited time. 2011, like he was okay.
Mm-hmm.
That Bulls team really kind of defined by its defense, and so I think above Rose is fair.
Yeah, yeah. The next player we had to discuss was good old Rudy Gobert. I'm just going to show this. This is our 120 through 140. And I want to read a pair of emails. Those here. Because we had both Rudy Gobert.
Your turn to read.
We had Rudy, and we had one about Karl Anthony Towns. Owns this one
You
again
get
from our guy
the
Lord.
easy ones. This is bullshit.
Karl Anthony Towns had a historic plus 258 plus minus, leading the Knicks to the championship due to being the defensive anchor, or that he had such as his rim protection. Sorry guys, I'm going to read your emails the way they're written. While also having elite floor spacing, where his 3-point shooting spiked up to 45.6%. Also during the title run, averaged an impactful 15.9 in points, 10.6 rebounds, 4.9 assists. Also during his prime, averaged 24 plus points and 11 and plus rebounds. He's a 6-time All-Star, 3-time All-NBA, and was Rookie of the Year and All-Rookie his rookie season. That is the case for moving up Karl Anthony Towns. Likewise, we had Rudy at 151. Rudy Gobert needs to move up many spots after this year. He is now tied for the second most all-defensive first-team selections and chipped off some of his best playoff dropper narratives against the Nuggets. It's definitely the best defensive player since the three-point era. I'm going to assume that's the Curry Revolution, not the NBA introducing the three-point line in 1980. But I believe you wanted to move Karl Anthony Towns somewhere into the 140 to 160 range. We currently had Gobert at 151. Where do you want to go with those guys? The former Minnesota teammates directly after talking about Anthony Edwards. Man, if only those 3 guys were on the same team. What could have been?
What could have been? Yeah, I think we ended up with Towns right above DeMar DeRozan, and then right behind Bobby Dandridge. I feel like for Towns, what I really want to get ahead of is he really did change so much this season.
Mm-hmm.
This is a much different player. He's so much better defensively. The passing is there. His basketball IQ, it must have tripled overnight. He's really improved as a Knick. It doesn't change the Timberwolves seasons where there's always kind of something missing. And so I don't want to go back and say, oh, he was always misused and he should be X, Y, and Z. And, this is clearly how his career should be defined, is this one Knicks playoff run of 20-something games. And I think I want to be a little more conservative with that. How did you feel about his placement?
No, I think that's fair, because it doesn't recontextualize everything that we saw prior. And I appreciated it, Laura, for putting in the stats where he mentions they average like 16 points per game in that finals run. And the last several games, he really struggled. And what happened was he changed his entire focus. He became a 3-and-D player in large part, which is funny to say about a center, but his defensive impact was huge, which it was ultimately the thing that won him a championship. And I remember years of us calling, texting, talking to each other about Wilt Chamberlain. Wilt finally wins when he says, screw it. I'm going to dedicate myself to playing defense. I'm going to pass the ball more. This is not going to be an offensive, focused Wilt. It's going to be a more balanced approach. And like I think we've always been very low on Wilt because of all those years that he just cares about the stats. And when people will throw 50 points in our face, we'll be like, yeah, his teammates hated him. There's so many complaints about they didn't win despite that. It doesn't erase that he finally figures it out at one point. And I think that's kind of the same case. I would be somewhat interested in having him higher rather than just below where we've got DeMar. But I think it needs to be a 3-player shift. I think we need to move DeMar up, and I think we need to move Bob Danridge up. And so I have petitioned the listeners to give me the Bob Danridge case, because I just think Danridge.
Did you get one?
I did not get one yet. I'm still asking. I'm begging. If you want an easy
I'll do
email
it.
to be read on a pod, write
Yeah.
the Danridge
Bobby Danridge.
case.
Hey man, 79? Yeah, and the 78 Finals MVP.
78.
They took it from him. On the TV, it said Finals MVP Bobby Dandridge, and then they gave it to us on sub, which is always very funny for Elvin Hayes, the Elvin Hayes story, where he was like probably the best player on that team, but like somehow, like in the record book, is third in Finals MVP. We don't get that story for other Finals MVPs. But here's my thing with Bobby Dandridge and why I ended up higher than with Towns. I think Towns, they wanted him to be the first option. They wanted him to be the best player. They pushed that. And that was, I mean, he was first overall pick. He's a great prospect. That was the idea. And that didn't work out. Once he became the third guy, the second guy, to give him credit, we've said on this podcast that he was like the guy for the start of the Knicks run. But still, like once he was kind of more in a different role, it all clicked. But I do feel like Dandridge from the start is in that defined. He's third next to Kareem and Oscar, and then he's next to Unseld and Hayes, and he plays in these finals and he wins 2 championships, and he's one of the best playoff players of the era. He plays 40 minutes a night in 98 playoff games, averaged 20 points per game over his career. He has that, and I think Towns maybe could have done that, could have been that, but like, what do you value more, like Dandridge being in that role and contributing to winning, or Towns kind of being out of position? And what do you think?
I think that there's a case to have them both higher. I honestly look at them and I look up through our 144 and I'm like, Peja, I think all 3 of these guys should be higher than Peja at this point. Manu, career sixth man. Then we can talk about all of his contributions to winning. We can talk about all of his role.
Sorry, Manu sacrificed, bro. He came off the bench. He gave up so much. He's as good as Kobe Bryant.
Some of the best career per 36. Hey, Aaron, how many playoff series did he play 36 minutes in?
That's a good question. I have no idea. 4.
2.
Yeah. I do think, just for all the listeners, if you ever are making the case, and this is for, the Hall of Fame caliber guys, are making the case for a player, and you mention per 36 numbers, that guy's not that good. Just that guy's not as good as you think. Find a different angle. There's no way we're talking about per possession. Per possession numbers are a little bit different, but at the same time, it's like basketball is a as it comes sport, as it happens, and you can't define it on a per possession basis because the pace of play changes the value of each possession.
Yep. The Spurs won a per possession NBA Finals. They were per possessions better for most of the series, but they were not able to sustain that for 48 minutes and all of the possessions of the game. That is why, it's so I would be interested in moving up Danridge, moving up Karl Anthony Towns, moving up Rudy Gobert. A small move up to DeMar. DeMar maybe doesn't get to leapfrog some of these guys.
What did DeMar DeRozan do this year?
What did DeMar DeRozan do this year? DeMar DeRozan entered this season 29th in the all-time scoring, behind 28 Alex English and 30, a tie between Rick Barry and Reggie Miller. He is now 18th all-time between Hakeem Olajuwon and Oscar Robertson, above Dominique Wilkins, George Gervin, Steph Curry, Tim Duncan, and a bunch of other guys. DeMar DeRozan has a legitimate chance at ending in the top 10 in total points after next season. If he just repeats what he does this year, he'll be like neck and neck with Carmelo Anthony for 13th all time. He could easily crack the 30,000 point club. Believe me, if that happens, we're going to have to keep moving him up higher. But I think at this point, this is some of the most consistent scoring out there. I would like to move him up to right behind Glenn Rice.
You hate Vern Mickelson. He's your lead. Every time you do these rankings, you move. You're like, right there. It's Vern Mickelson.
Yeah, I think we could also stand to move Vern down. Maybe you're right. Maybe we just move Vern down. DeMar goes up behind JoJo White because JoJo does. I forget if he does get the 76 finals.
Yeah, he
MVP.
gets the finals MVP. That's my biggest thing. What's your favorite DeMar DeRozan playoff moment?
There was the time that LeBron swept him.
Yeah, and then the other time when LeBron swept him, and then the other time he sucked.
Yeah,
I don't. DeMar DeRozan's a great scorer. He puts Spriggles' numbers. I've enjoyed having him on my team, even though he's kind of sickled the death of the Beam team. I just don't think he can be on a team that wins a championship. Even though the Raptors were good and they made a conference finals and they had that, like, I literally cannot see that. Like, I just don't. So they were so far away. They were so far away from Cleveland. They were so far away from Golden State. It was never that serious. And even if he's like the first scoring option, like, I don't want him to be that on my team. You don't want that.
Just wait till he goes back to San Antonio.
He's gonna be on the Knicks.
He's got a non-guaranteed contract, or it's only 10 million guaranteed. The Spurs will cut him. Okay, pick one of the guys. Let's try to place one of Rudy, DeMar, Bob Danridge, who I'm throwing into this mix because I really do feel he's underrated, and Karl Anthony Towns, because I think I understand stopping at Bob Danridge, but I think Bob Danridge deserves to be up a little bit.
Interesting. That changes things.
Right.
What did I end up with? I had Towns at 158 in between DeRozan and Dandridge, and I had Gobert 144 right behind Manu and ahead of Richmond. You want to do that? Nah, the numbers are kind of wonky because of the other movements that have happened. Yeah, but between Manu and Richmond, yeah,
I could do that. I could settle for Rudy up, because Richmond and DeMar, I think, are very similar cases of like good but never great, like good consistent 20 points per game, going to be a regular season scorer that'll get your team to the playoffs but not do much beyond that.
Do you think we underrate Gobert?
I
really think about that. Like him and Mutombo did make 8 All-Star teams, and I think that kind of shows. That's 5 more All-Star teams. Why does that matter? That matters because I think it shows the difference in player impact and the kind of value of Mutombo's archetype when it's a post-oriented paint scoring league, and you can't just space Rudy Gobert to death.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, Gobert just had this thing. He has not just shaken off like this playoff choker narrative that he had in Utah. Like, they made the conference finals twice. He was great. And they just shut down Jokic in like a crazy upset series where Edwards was hurt and they still won anyways. Like, he's won 4 defensive player of the years. I always think about, like, if we walked away, if we got like deneuralized like in Men in Black and forgot all about this, and we're like, all right, do it again. I feel like we would approach Gobert a lot differently, knowing what we know right now. But it's like the process that we've taken that kind of limits how high he can be. And part of me wants to say, just like, fuck it. He's awesome, and if he was on Golden State, he'd have 4 rings, and he's close to a top 100 guy. He has by far the best defensive numbers of this era. He just changes how teams operate. He can be a number 1 defense on his own in his prime, and that's that.
I understand it. The one thing that I want to push back is like, do you know what he averaged this playoffs?
What he averaged?
Yeah.
8 and 10.
Yeah, basically 7.2
Uh,
points per game, the 10-ish boards.
but he locked up Jokic. He gave Jokic his 2011 finals moment. Like he crushed him.
Yeah,
Like face up defense. It was a career defining series for both those guys.
it, it was him finally getting the better of Jokic. Now, I don't know. I feel like at this point we might be over indexing on one good playoff of performance, one good year. Like he has been good in the playoffs, but there's a reason why there is a lot of talk about the playoff of
Yeah.
choking and failuring and whatnot. And I should shout out who gave us that note, Mach or Mach, Motch from your TikTok
Uh,
feed. So
Are these the comments
yeah,
from the video?
yeah,
Oh, nice.
you told me you were going to comb the comments and put them in there. You did not do that. I did that.
This is
Uh,
great.
listen, chainsaw
Wait,
takes a lot out of you.
go back to that. Back to that comment. I didn't see it.
Really, it's not so much chainsawing, but it's picking up the logs
Oh
after
yeah, you read that one. You read that one. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm interested in moving Gobert up. He is a generational defensive talent and a player. I do think though that is where that conversation ends. Is like he's a generational defensive player.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of offensive limitations that maybe make me a little bit hesitant to move him in. Like Draymond Green is 132. Draymond Green is a limited offensive player as well, but with his scoring. But when the Warriors were cooking, he was hitting his threes, and his playmaking off the pick and roll was so valuable. That is the thing that, um, Curry's shooting opens the floor up. But if you had a different role man, if you had a Sean Kemp there, or who is a thunderous dunker, would have to catch and make multiple dribbles to try to get to the paint. Like Draymond's passing out of this meant a lot to the offense and his decision making. I don't think we can get that high with Gobert, so I'm cool with keeping Gobert somewhere in the 140 to 160 range.
Okay, let's lock him in where I had him, between Manu and Richmond, because I will always, forever, as much as I respect Gobert, I'm always going to take Draymond.
Fair,
I just
fair. I
always
think
will.
that's right.
Because what's the issue with Gobert? It's never been that he gets like stretched out by small ball lineups. It's not the defensive end. It's that you can do that and he can't score on small guys. If he could
Yes,
score on small guys, then you wouldn't. Then the net gain for you would be so small that you wouldn't. It wouldn't be worth it. But you can just do that and hit threes and then not worry about him in the offensive end. That's the problem. And I think just Draymond. I mean, like 2015, early 2016, like 2019, Draymond was unbelievable. In the playoffs, it's just he went up a level, and I feel like in a way that I don't think Gobert has. But let's lock
yeah.
that in, and
So
then
Gobert goes between Manu
yeah,
and Mitch Richmond. All of these guys are down one because we moved Anthony
yeah.
Edwards up from 162. So I forget where his new spot is, but higher.
Let's do Darren Williams is interesting here. Rodman's kind of interesting. He kind of stares at me funny.
How fast can you type? Because I'd like to propose things.
I could type reasonably fast. How come?
Okay, I want to
You're asking me to read. You're asking me to type. What do you want from me?
starting at 146, which
Yeah,
is no longer the right numbers for these. But what
yeah,
if we do a re-rank like this, where we go
yeah.
JoJo White because he gets the Finals MVP.
Okay.
Then we go Bob Danrich. Then Earl Monroe, Carl Anthony Towns, George Yardley, Maurice Lucas,
One
Dennis
second.
Rodman.
One second. Jojo White, Bob Dandridge, Earl Monroe, Carl Anthony Towns, Glenn Rice.
No, Rice hasn't moved.
Okay. Who was after
George,
Towns?
George Yardley,
Yardley.
DeMar DeRozan, Maurice Lucas, Dennis Rodman, and then then Darren Williams, Joe Fulks, and then Vern Mickelson.
Where did Peja end up?
Peja didn't move. He stayed in his same spot. So all of this is going from Vern basically down through DeMar.
What am I looking at?
You're looking at beautiful perfection.
Okay, so where's Paige? Where's Paige? Let me figure this out.
Peja has
So
not moved.
yeah, he hasn't moved, but he was in the middle of that group for me. I don't know why.
And,
Richmond,
and
Asia. Then it goes Jojo White, Dandridge, Robert Towns, DeRozan, Yardley. Continue after Yardley.
After Yardley, it was DeMar DeRozan,
1 second. Where the fuck did he? Okay, yeah.
Maurice Lucas,
Okay.
Dennis Rodman, Darren Williams, Joe Folks, Vern Mickelson, Walter Davis.
Joe Fox.
And a big reason for this is like Joe Folks and Vern existed in relatively the same time period.
Where did Glenn Rice end up?
He has not moved. Peja and Glenn have not moved.
All right, I think I just they got. I think for some reason I think I moved this grouping around, and so they were not in the same order, and they were in that group of names and just never got mentioned.
No, they should still be right behind Mitch and Glenn, and maybe we can make a case to move them down. I'm just trying
So
to
Manu,
decomplicate things.
I just can DeMar DeRozan be a good playoff player? He likes like the worst one. He's the worst playoff player, maybe ever.
He's been the number one option. Maurice Lucas was never the number one option.
He
Neither
literally led the Blazers in scoring and they won the title. He led the Blazers in scoring and they won the title.
Yeah, but it's Bill Walton.
He even so, it's like the idea of like him leading he led the Blazers in scoring and they won the title. That is such heavy that he contributed to that title in ways that DeMar DeRozan can't contribute to a conference finals. Like it's not going to happen. He was bad. DeMar DeRozan has been bad in every single playoff series he's ever played in.
Longevity, scoring, 18th all time in scoring.
If he could play one good playoff series, then it would change everything. It would be like maybe it's different, but it's like I genuinely think someone like this cannot exist on the playoff basketball court and be effective.
I will say I did try to look up some playoff moments for him. I was trying to find something to celebrate in my individual video for him and for the top 500 TikTok series. And I was just like, man, some of these elimination games are Harden-esque. It was a brutal look. But I do think we should at least move Vern down behind Joe Folks and move Bob Danridge up between JoJo and Earl Monroe. Can we get there?
You're really pushing my auditory comprehension here. One second. I had a few DeMar DeRozan questions. And what do you think his playoff box plus minuses?
Considering that is a per 100, it's stats and has other major flaws with how it's constructed. I'm gonna guess poor. I'm gonna guess. Is it negative? No, it's not. It can't be negative.
It's just 0.
Okay.
So it's 0. What is his playoff true shooting plus?
96.
91. 91. Ooh. What is his playoff on-off number per 100?
It's going to be negative because of how good the Lowry plus bench lineups were.
Or every team he's ever played on. Every time, or San Antonio and Chicago. DeMar DeRozan has had an on-off and an on-court plus minus that has been negative every single time he's played in the playoffs for negative 11 on-off, negative 8.4 on-court. I didn't anticipate this to be the holdup, but this entire thing has to be changed. I'm taking DeRozan. I'm just gonna drag him down. We're going right there.
I can't see when you're saying you're doing things.
Yeah.
And listen, I'm going to tell you this. I backed off on Jalen Brunson for the sake of your honor. I will not back off on DeMar DeRozan.
I can't. You're going to go on. You're going to tell me you're going to make a DeMar DeRozan arguments? Like about what?
I will say
he's the worst playoff player of all time.
I will say that he cannot move down. at this point.
He's not
I
moving
mean, like, guys.
down.
Oh well, you said that you were going to drag him down. I thought you were going to try to make a Brad Doherty over him case or a Chet
No,
Walker over him case.
I just think he's where he was. He's
Okay,
159th.
okay, because of him getting jumped by a Carl Anthony
Yeah,
Towns and Anthony Edwards. If you're looking at the
yeah,
screen.
yeah.
All right, fair enough. All right, so Gobert moved up. Can we move up Danridge to in between JoJo White and Errol Monroe? Can we at least do that?
Yeah, let's do that.
And then I would be happy with Carl Anthony Towns closer to Maurice Lucas, so he gets a few more spots.
Yeah, I had Towns.
You had him between Danridge and DeMar, and I think that is
Yeah.
a fair ranking.
Right.
But if we stretch Danridge up higher, I think
Mhm.
we can shift Carl Anthony up a little bit higher.
So he ended up between Monroe and Yardley in your
Perfect.
new thing.
Perfect.
And I always feel like this area of the top of our rankings is all jumbled, and it's refreshing looking at it with it's a new order.
Yeah, and Vern goes down below Joe Fulks.
Do you think we should put Manu ahead of Klay Thompson?
I would be intrigued by that, but let's come back to that another time.
Okay, all right, we'll do that for the more historical one.
Yeah, someone write us your Manu per 36, blah blah blah.
05 finals. I kept really quickly. I just kept looking back at Manu and him being, the offensive closer at times for the Spurs. I think Klay was great. I don't think he ever shouldered that kind of responsibility.
My pushback would be the Klay game saves them when they're down 3-1.
That's true. No, he does do
we
that.
do have some Klay experiences, and Klay's defense.
Yeah,
Klay was the consistent defensive player on the perimeter that sheltered and guarded Steph Curry from being targeted, from having to work as hard. Manu comes off the bench, gets to be a change of pace defensive player, but the lead defensive wing for the Spurs was Bruce Bowen, just hands down.
yeah.
Did you see Iman Shumpert on JJ Redick's, I don't know, TikTok podcast, whatever, his show, the JJ Redick, or not the Richard Jefferson show?
I did not.
So Richard asked him, what's one thing that people who don't play ball wouldn't understand? And Shump's response was playing defense without getting stats. And I fell in love with his response, because he starts breaking it down and being like, hey, people see guys who get steals or blocks and they're like, that's a good defensive player. And he's like, you don't do that. Like, playing defense where your job is, I have to lock this guy up. I have to stay on him. I have to keep straight up. I cannot afford to pick up fouls, but I need to be there. So I'm not reaching. I am just constantly there trying to make this guy's life harder. That is real defense, and that is real difficult to do. And that is what Bruce Bowen did. Whereas Manu was the guy that could go for the steals, could go for those, type of things.
I still feel like we should have Bowen higher on our ranking. We'll get to that in a while.
In a month.
Yeah.
Year. All right. So I think we've got this area fairly well figured out. Would you care to just read from
Sure.
I believe what's now 142 and or wherever Mark Price is.
Yeah, Mark Price, 142. And then Manu, Rudy Gobert moves up from 152 to 144. Mitch Richmond, Glenn Rice, Peja Siakovic, JoJo White, Bobby Dandridge, Earl Monroe, Carl Towns jumps 50 spots from 201 to 151. Then George Yardley, Maurice Lucas, Dennis Rodman, Darren Williams, Joe Fulks, Vern Mickelson, Walter Davis, and DeMar DeRozan. With a little note, this is no movement.
No movement. All right. Next one. I hate to tell you this, but this range where we've now moved Ant out of still contains Tyrese Halliburton. No movement there. Al Horford, no movement there. But we got some emails about guys just outside of this range, maybe potentially arguing that they should move into this range. First off is Rajon Rondo. This was posted on one of my videos. And the guy then, on the next several players I posted, he's like, great video, love it. And there was more to this where he does actually compliment my analysis. I clipped it because we're here for the critiques. We're here for the criticism. We're here for the heat. But he kept posting on videos being like, not better than Rondo, not better than Rondo. 187 for Rondo. I ain't going for the Rondo disrespect. His nickname is Playoff Rondo. He's the dude that locked up prime AD, the glue to the Celtics chip, and the key to the Lakers chip. No disrespect to Middleton, but he should be nowhere near Rondo. And then 171 is Gilbert Arenas, 185 is Kyle Lowry. I promise you, and this come, oh man, I didn't write down this user's name. This was a TikTok comment, but I really appreciate it. I promise you, he is not better than Kyle Lowry. Kyle Lowry was a great leader, perennial Eastern Conference contender for being the greatest player in the franchise history. Gil at best was the leader of a first round exit every year. On the basketball court, outside of scoring, Kyle was a better passer, defender, leader. Kyle also provided the NBA with real moments, which I feel like you have to account for. Name one truly memorable Gilbert Arenas playoff moment. Now, Rondo is once an 87. Lowry, we've got a 185. Any interest in moving those two dudes into this 160 to 180 range?
It's so tricky. Obviously, the further we get out, like the closer these guys get. I think I've grown to kind of respect Rondo. I always feel like people kind of overvalue him a little bit in terms of the titles that he has. I don't know. Do you want to move him? I don't really want to move him.
I'd
rather move Lowry up.
I would love to move up Lowry. I think the call that Lowry should be over Gilbert Arenas is
right.
Is good. Although I would say that maybe we move Gilbert down a little and Lowry up a little bit. Because I look at all of these names and like, I don't know that Lowry necessarily needs to be over Sprewell, a guy who, I guess, what am I being
He probably should be above Sprewell.
Yeah, you know what, fuck it. Let's just put Lowry above Gilbert Arenas right there.
Yeah, let's just do that.
Lowry above Gil. Rondo was interesting to kind of go back and look at because Rondo has some really strong playoff moments. There is that one series of, I think it's 2012, that he goes toe to toe with LeBron James, kind of really ascends to being what I would consider a top 5 player in basketball. Well, you know, he is scoring, he is defending, he is playmaking. And I think we can really crush a lot of the later parts of his career. And when the emailer mentions him being like the glue on the Lakers team, it's like, okay, yeah, like 5th or 6th best player on the 2020 title. Like, it's cute, but not top 200 conversation. But there was at least a real moment where he was super valuable to a team in ways that, you know, I don't know that Al Horford, like Al Horford has the cute title team moment that would be Lowry in 2020, or would be Rondo in 2020.
Right. Yeah, I get what you mean. Rondo is, I think you don't really think of Rondo as like a peak guy, but he's essentially like a replacement level point guard that guys really trust from like 2014 on, basically as soon as he gets traded to Dallas. And so the years before that are really what matter to us when he's absolutely at the peak of his play. I don't think he's better than Baron Davis. Like, I don't think he's a better guy, a better player than Gilbert Arenas. Like, these guys
never leaves his team.
Yeah, the Celtics are very interesting in the way they were organized during his prime, where Pierce, Garnett, Allen, and Rondo were all kind of, they're a big four, and at times it's hard to distinguish, you know, who's the most important. And I do feel like you can give Rondo a little too much credit because of that, where it's like, hey, like, look at this, like, look what he does. When, you know, we talked about cutting up the pie in the last episode, where the Rondo's 35% of the credit, but Pierce is 36 and Garnett's 37 and Allen's 25 or something. And that's just how it is. It looks like, it's like, man, he's really kicking ass, but that's so tricky. I like moving Lowry up. I think we've kind of grown to appreciate the longevity guys, and him not peaking super high, but still being the efficient floor general for playoff teams for a considerable amount of time is worth something. And I think if DeMar DeRozan didn't have the Chicago years, I think Lowry would be better. I kind of think Lowry was the better Raptor, and I've kind of grown to feel that way.
I think that can be a case can be made for it. I do. This is from someone who watched a lot of Raptors games. The Raptors staggered their lineups to almost a brutal extent, where it would be DeMar and a blended, bench and starter lineup versus Lowry and a bench and starter lineup. And Lowry got to play with that lineup versus other teams' benches. And like some teams would stagger and it'd be Lowry and it'd be like a blended versus blended, and both ways for both DeMar and Lowry. But there were also the teams that did what the Nuggets do, where it's like, hey, we're going to play our starters together and then screw the bench. And that's going to boost Jokic's on-offs because the bench is going to be so horrendously terrible. If it was starters versus starters and DeMar was a starter versus there's another starter without Kyle Lowry, it was just you were like hoping they could break even. And so like I will always say that I feel like the staggering made sense for Toronto because they can make up that ground against benches, but really hurt DeMar's statistical presence. So I don't know. He's definitely the better leader. And DeMar has a better career outside of Toronto. Who's actually better in Toronto? I think that still is close enough that I'd say 1A, 1B. Or double 1As.
So I have Lowry moving up right above Arenas. And then like I kind of feel like Rondo should just kind of be where he is. I think we were right. I think we still kind of had him in that right area.
Can we at least move him up above some of the old timey guys, the Arnie Rison, the Slater Martins?
Yeah,
just get a little bit of movement.
We could do that. I think I look at like Bobby Jones. Those guys are kind of similar.
Mm-hmm.
Jones didn't play a ton, just given the he was more of a sixth man throughout his career.
Yeah, Bobby Jones had epilepsy throughout his career, which
I think he had asthma too.
Yeah, but just a hard-nosed defensive player who, when people tried to do on-off numbers and went back and tried to do play-by-play stuff for the early 80s 76ers, some of the numbers pointed to him being more impactful in an on-off wise than Julius Erving, which is conceptually, I'll let you make of that what you will, but I thought that was interesting.
Basketball is a tough sport to get advanced stats down for. We were really in a very interesting point when we started doing these rankings, like pre-data baller, on-off numbers were like you were a nerd if you brought that up.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just like everybody knows everyone's on-off split, and that's what matters. We're really kind of reaching an interesting tipping point. I do feel like baseball is has gone through a similar thing. They're just kind of in the future with that, but I don't think I'll ever believe that basketball is a black and white enough sport, a true outcome sport, to where you can measure it in that way. Like it really does happen in like moment by moment. I forget where I was going with that, but
to really figure out analytically, like we're just not close.
Yeah.
For
Bobby Jones. Yeah, you mentioned Bobby Jones and then the on-off numbers, but
yeah. So what's the final number you're putting on Rajon Rondo?
Above
behind Larry Johnson.
Yeah, above Larry Johnson. I was
okay.
I think above Larry Johnson is probably reasonable.
Yeah. All right. Other guys in this range, to talk about. We've already moved up Cat from 200. We got Bam sitting there, 186. Although now he's probably falling behind a few more guys that leapfrogged him. But Mr. 83, second greatest individual scoring game in basketball history, also has been the defensive anchor on 2 NBA Finals teams, one of which, had he stayed healthy, maybe is an NBA champion. I'm starting to feel a little low for Bam. I'm starting to feel like we need to move Bam up a bit.
We can. I'm trying to figure out, where is Rip Hamilton for you?
Rip Hamilton, on these slides, is currently hanging out 178 because of the guys that moved over him.
Okay, kind of got shifted around.
Slid
so
down.
I had him basically right there after behind Rip Hamilton.
I'll take it. I like it. Yeah. Rip led the Pistons in scoring in their 03 to, I forget, was it 07 and run. They played 20 playoff series. He led them in like 15 of those 20 playoff series is over those years. Like just consistently the best scorer and underrated defensive player on a really great defensive team. I almost think Bam needs to be even higher, but it's the first title Bam or the first finals run. Bam was like coming into his own as a defensive player, and I feel like every year we've kind of been waiting for him to take that leap and really, stranglehold a top 10 position in the NBA. And remember those years where it was like, yeah, this is going to be the year where Bam averages 20. Yeah, this is going to be the year where Bam is getting up like X amount of shots, and he just hasn't done it. And like this year, he scores 83 against the Wizards. Like that's great. You do it
It
against an
was
NBA team.
this was the worst scoring season like since he broke out. Really, he was so inefficient. He shot 44% for the field, negative 79.8 true shooting added. And then in 2021, it was plus 104. It's like we know Bam can go out there and like be efficient and average close to 20, and with more offensive pressure, like this dude sucks like on offense. I really don't like he can't create his own shot. And I mean, him next to Giannis is gonna be really interesting heading into next season because it'll kind of alleviate that. But I can't see him being all too much higher. I think we're in the right spot for him.
All right. Well, Aaron, I'm going to try to do something here.
Yep.
You hear that sound?
I do.
Yeah, that was the built-in explosion sound.
Wow.
Yeah, thanks, StreamYard. The reason why I'm doing that explosion sound is we had marked that 2 new players should be making it somewhere in these relative ranges this year. 2 guys that were off the list, our first-time eligible players. There's Tyrese Maxey and Cade Cunningham. Do you think those 2 guys deserve to be top 200 players all time?
I do. I do actually. I had Maxey. I'm just going to say this number for whatever this means for the rankings. 194th. Do with that what you will. And then I had Cade at 164.
Okay. So I want to push back on both of those right away, right off jump.
I'm not interested.
Well, so I think the idea is that Cade just had an awesome year. Cade came in 5th in MVP voting. He led the Pistons to the best seed in the East. Had an okay playoffs, better than expected playoffs, given coming back from injury. This year he averaged 28 points and 7.5 assists per game in the playoffs. Did have multiple big night after big nights, 45 against Orlando in game 5, then a 30 and 10 board in game 6, 32 and 10 assists in game 7 against Cleveland in game 5, 39 in points, 9 assists, 7 rebounds. That's an awesome year. I look at Trae Young at 195 and, are you familiar with a indie artist known as Chapel Roan?
I am.
When she speaks of her mama seeing a girl and just screaming, "God, what have you done? You're a pink pony girl and you dance at the club." Right. That's kind of what I look at with Trae Young, and I'm like, God, what have we done? This is our baby. Why is Trae Young so high? It's because he made 1 Eastern Conference Finals in a Ben Simmons self-implosion. Also is top 15 all-time playoff points per game. But maybe we just pump the brakes a little bit. Maybe we go with a little bit of hesitancy. Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah.
Is what, 168, 169?
Yeah.
You were really going to put Cade over the Halliburton, the guy who got to game 7 of the NBA Finals?
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Had the lead, a pop of the Achilles. He's away from a title.
Cade's just such an insane offensive creator this season. Like kind of Shea-esque, basically, where the Pistons didn't really have another scorer. Were just built around the defense. They were 2nd defensive rating. Cade averaged 24 and 10, was 5th in MVP voting, 1st team All-NBA. Like, he was that kind of guy. He fell behind 3-1 and then kicked ass to get back out of that. I thought I was really impressed by that series after getting kind of punched in the mouth. And I guess with Trae Young, it's not the conference finals, whatever. We all understand like what happened there, where Ben Simmons just imploded and the East is super weak. We Trae Young is he's one of like the 10 best offensive engines of the last 25 years. You could really say that. And he's also one of the 5 worst defenders of the last 25 years. And he basically gets you, let's say, I think it was like for offensive BPM or whatever, like a +4.5, but it's a -3.5 defensively. So it's like a +1 player. And so that's kind of where that Trae comes from, where that Trae ranking comes from, where he's not higher. I don't think Maxey has that problem. And Maxey was awesome this past season. Like Cade is a strong defensive player in comparison and has that size and like can lead a top seed. Trae Young won 2 playoff series in a row. That was fantastic, but and at no point could get Atlanta consistently over 500. They basically played 500 ball and they were better without him during that tenure. I don't mind saying like, hey, I'd rather have Cade, I'd rather have Maxey, even for what they've had, even the short careers that they've had.
Sure. No, I am not saying that we shouldn't have them over Trae. I am saying we have Trae too high. And I want to avoid kind of the self-implosion of doing that again. Over-indexing on a single season. So if I could propose, what if we say Cade goes in between Chris Middleton and Bill Laimbeer? A little bit better season than we've ever seen from Trae Young on a top 5 MVP, everything with that. It's just pumping the brakes a little bit. And then we, for Maxey, go below Joe Johnson, but we boot Trae Young down about 10 spots.
I'm willing to be conservative only because we spent the first 30 minutes of the pod arguing to be conservative for Jalen Brunson. That's a great idea, Nate. It's too early, and I should pump the brakes on Cade Cunningham.
All right. So let's do that. Cade,
where did Maxey end up? Sorry.
Right below Joe Johnson. He takes over Karl-Anthony Towns' old spot. I don't know what number that is.
I think I moved Joe Johnson back. Wait.
Aaron, what have I said about making unauthorized moves?
No, I don't think I did. One second.
Joe Jermaine O'Neal, Joe 199. Johnson.
Yeah, okay.
Tyrese Maxey.
No, that's right. I just everything kind of gets jumbled because I have some rankings that have happened, and then there are rankings we haven't talked about that are now affecting these rankings, and so the numbers get a little wonky. But we're all
actually, fuck it. Let's just do Tyrese Maxey where Trae Young was. Just put him right over Trae.
Okay. And then Trae Young falls down where?
Trae Young. Let's see here. So if we move into the top 200,
he's better than Joe Johnson.
Yeah. All right, Trae can stay where Trae is.
Yeah, he's it's hard to go down.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. Trae can stay at Trae's spot. It is going down because Karl-Anthony Towns moved up because we put 2 new guys on the list, but still a top 200 all-time guy.
This is very much a visual podcast. I think if you're listening to this, you should go on my Patreon and get this list and then have it in front of you as it happens, and so you can track it.
Or YouTube and watch us as we have the slides again. Oh, yes. Actually,
both things.
I believe both Spotify and Apple will allow you to see it, but maybe this is one that you pull up on the iPad next to your workstation as opposed to your phone.
This is like a 3-screen kind of podcast. 1 screen for the podcast audio, and then you have like the slides up, and then you have the list. It's kind of you're juggling a lot of things, but
yeah.
So I actually had somebody. Go ahead.
Oh, you had somebody else? Because I was gonna throw to a listener email at the top of the 200s, but if you've got somebody else,
he's actually outside the top 200 by 1 spot. So I want to hear the email first.
Oh, the email is about guys in like 250 and why they should be closer to 200. So give me your guy.
Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray.
I went from 231, and then I moved him 1 spot above Trae Young. Jamal Murray finally wasn't fat. And finally he was in great shape. Played in 75 games, 35 minutes a night, 25 and 7. Shot 44% and over 7 attempts per game. The Nuggets were first in offensive rating. I think one of like the 10 best offenses ever by relative offensive rating. Like him and Jokic were just clicking. And I think it's the regular season we've been kind of looking for. He graduated from the best non-all-stars, and his insane playoff resume is now kind of pieced together with a really nice regular season. And I think it's time to move him up quite a bit.
I don't hate it. It feels a little bit higher, but I don't really have a strong case for Trae Young over him, other
Yeah.
than just the like regular season engine,
Yeah.
which how valuable is that when it can't be 500 consistently?
We have
All right.
DeMarcus Cousins on my list so far as it is 210. So I mean, do you like DeMarcus Cousins or Jamal Murray more?
I mean, with four random guys in the park, I think DeMarcus Cousins wins
What
that
about
battle.
on an NBA franchise?
What about throwing a max contract and saying how do
Yeah.
we consort other players around them? Yeah, no, I get it. Jamal Murray.
All right, then we're settled. I'll slot him in there
Above or
unofficially
below Maxi? Because I think we
above.
can make the case above Maxi. Yeah.
Yeah,
So we
above.
go Max, or we go Murray, Maxi, Trae.
Yeah.
All right, fair
Man,
enough.
Trae Young going backwards on the all-time point guard rankings. That's
Yeah,
cold.
it happens. You stop playing good ball. I mean, Trae got dumped. Trae got salary
He
dumped,
did get dumped. And
and
then
then
extended though. Hey, wait, then extended. The Wizards gave him the same contract. There's nothing quite 10 billion IQ play. You trade for a diseased asset that you basically get for free because his contract is so bad, and then you give him the same contract again, and then he's a bad asset for you this time.
yeah, I really loved I loved this in theory of like we're going to take on bad assets. We're going to take on good players that for are negative value, who because of their contracts, because of their situations, and both Trey and Anthony Davis, like Davis has really struggled to score efficiently outside of COVID and when there weren't crowds and the bubble where he could line up his shot consistently. Trey can't play defense. They're like a match made in heaven. You put them as like a pillar of your offense, a pillar of your defense around young players. You do it for a season. It could be a great ecosystem to try to develop these guys in. And I was like, I'm on board. These are smart moves. Washington just figured something out. And then it's like, well, apparently you didn't figure anything out because Davis doesn't want to be there, or you didn't talk to him at all through any of this. And you didn't figure this out because you're now giving Trey Young supermax money for like 4 years. Um, I don't know. I don't know. I think Washington's going to be vastly improved, but who knows?
We'll see.
All right. How about we round out with this? The last three guys sent to us from Gavin. And then Gavin, I loved your emails so much. I'm sorry for what I'm about to say and do.
Gavin.
But he wrote in about number 257, Andy Phillips, saying that I've got him ranked about 50 spots higher. He's a prime example of a player who is historically underrated because certain awards did not exist during his era. According to my retroactive research, he deserves 7 All-Star selections rather than his 5 because there are several years where they did not do All-Stars. They just did all BAA or all NBAs, 3 all-defensive team selections, 6 all-third team nods in addition to his 2 official all-second team honors. And then he also added in for Carl Braun and Paul Seymour that he's got them each about 50 spots higher for similar reasons. They're often overlooked due to the awards they're missing and in their era. According to my research, Braun should have 7 all-defensive team selections, or Seymour should have 7 all-defensive teams. Carl Braun merited 8 all-star selections instead of his 5, 4 all-NBA third team nods in addition to his 2 second team, and 1 all-defensive team selections. And
That's great.
Aaron, do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
this 3-pack of players?
I do. I really love the retroactive awards. It's something I've thought about. I've never really gone back and done to have that time and effort. Like I really think that's cool. And to also, find the desire to want these older players moved up and to send us this email. Like I really love it so much. I think the big thing I'll say the league is 8 teams or 9 teams, being third team All NBA is basically like you're like an above average NBA player. Like that's most of the league would be a part of that third team All NBA. It's just too small of an NBA to warrant a third team, and I don't know how I feel about having that apply to these discussions. I mean, you could say he's just good in those seasons, but we knew that.
Yeah. So just did some quick maths here. 15 players are recognized on All NBA first, second, or third team. In a league that's 150, or sorry, in a league that is 550 players right now, that is a top 3% player. In a league that is 100 players, which is what it was, because you got some players who sign and drop, and so 8 teams, 10. That's what it was. That was in the early 50s is when these guys played. That's a top 15% of players. If you take that 15 and multiply that by the 550, you're talking about like the 82nd ish best player or better in this league, which is good. But like we're talking more like Jaden McDaniels than we are talking about like Tyrese Maxey this year.
Yeah.
So I'm not too swayed by this idea that they should have more of these honors, because those honors don't mean as much in that particular era. I did, though, just looking back, I am somewhat interested in moving up Paul Seymour. In 1954, he is on the championship team, this championship Syracuse team that goes to Game 7, and he leads the team in minutes per game and assists per game. I think that high level of play on a championship team kind of got a little bit glossed over. He also hits I forget if it's a game-winning shot, but it's a 42-foot shot, like just on the edge of the logo, to either win the game or send the game to an OT. Yeah, really strong 3-year stretch where he's top 15 in scoring, top 5 in assists per game. I think we've got him a little bit low, but I'm going to give you a little bit more time to do some research on that. And maybe this is where we start next episode with a case to move up Paul Seymour.
Shout out Paul Seymour getting the headliner for next episode. I really just feel like the 50s basketball stuff is like incomprehensible sometimes. Just looking at this team in the playoffs, like he does lead them in minutes per game. They have 6 players scoring in double figures between 11.5 points and between 19 points. It's like all in that range. The Nationals win 43 games or 43-29. They're first in their division. They are second in net rating. And what is that net rating, Nate? What great net rating earns you second in 1955?
Well, and that's still per 100, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but we're also talking about a league where they're shooting at like 38%, and it's because they're still working on figuring out getting the stitches out of the ball so it doesn't have a football style groove, and putting insulation in the floor. Yeah, and don't even talk about shoes. But like 83 points per 100 possessions.
It's not about net rating. So plus what?
Plus. That's what? Plus 3. Plus 4.
It's plus 1.3.
Wow.
And so they are the second best team in the league by that metric, and they are beating their opponents on average per 100 possessions by 1 point, basically. And that's just where the league's at. And so we have a really tough time kind of deciphering the 50s players, because all of these, essentially the best team and the worst team are like 5 wins apart. Mm-hmm. And it is so balanced in this era. Mike is kind of the only player to really like shed that on these good teams, where it's like that dude takes the most shots and like that guy is by far the best player. Like even that team like is so the parity is insane. Like it's a team sport in its truest sense.
Yeah. No, the game was very differently played back then. You also just don't have the money involved in the sports. You don't have as many people really gunning for it. Today's day and age, if you can make the NBA, your family is set for generations. And in that day and age, you knew you definitely had to have a job after the NBA. You probably had a part-time job in the NBA. like basketball is just at a different level as far as its um, place in pop culture. I mean, Bill Sharman, fantastic player of the 50s, is he skips out on the playoffs for a number of years because he's got, I forget if he was called up to the majors, but he's got at least a minor league MLB contract, and playing baseball is more important than going to the playoffs for him. Like,
Does he really miss playoff games for that?
yes. It's at least during his time with the Washington Capitals
Oh, in the
was
first season.
yeah, he's just like, bye guys, I have an MLB contract. I'm
That Capitals team. We'll have to figure that out. That Capitals team is pretty bad. I know he did play. I think he might be like the only guy to play at the same time in the NBA and MLB, but I forget.
I think there were more guys in this era. Uh, definitely haven't been that many like posts shot clock invention, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's just an interesting thing. I do think all three of these guys, Phillips, Braun, Seymour, um, they make all NBA teams when it is positionless. I was looking to see if there's maybe a case if it was by position, would they made first teams because they were all second team guys. And I think of this listener, I'm not sure if he did his research by positions or not by positions. If it's not by positions, or if he does it by positions, a third team when you only have 8 teams and you like gotta have 6 guards, like it's just a really
Right.
easy. It's a much different thing about making it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, let's wrap up. I want to kind
Yep.
of preview some of the other guys we got to talk about. Oh, next time around we've got, but well, we're probably not gonna make movement on Pascal Siakam, but here, if you want to take a quick screenshot, is the top 200 to 220. Yeah. Maybe next
I don't
time we
think
come
we
back.
move anybody in the top 300. I think we're probably going to start doing the historical stuff. Really, we need to add in some other guys, but I mean,
Definitely some other
looking at
guys
it,
just to
like
add in.
Bradley Beal, John Morant's not going anywhere. Holiday, no. Mike Conley, no. De'Aaron Fox to go down. We could do that.
De'Aaron
uh,
Fox to go down. I got in my notes potentially the first guy to make a finals as the team's number one offensive engine and go down.
go down, yeah.
Ja Morant, we did get a message about should Ja Morant go down.
Yeah. I
Um,
think arguably, I kind of look at like Iguodala, 234.
yeah,
Like I just think Morant was on, like, he was the most exciting young player in the league. We're like, you know what, let's put him here. And then, he's a lesson for us not to get too excited.
that's what I was kind of saying with Maxi and Cade. But yeah, so yeah, we've got those guys. Get ready for an Evan Mobley ranking, maybe a Scotty
Mm,
Barnes ranking in the next episode. But
yeah,
Alperen Şengün might sneak in somewhere, or we'll see. But
we'll be there.
Aaron, where where can those people find you?
Possible Chairs on TikTok, Possible Chairs on Twitter, my Patreon for these rankings. Eventually, when we finish them, I'll get those posted. The outro music is much quieter, and then the intro music is much louder. Yeah, in this podcast all the time.
I manually lowered the volume on it. You can find me, Nate_Hoopstemple, on TikTok and YouTube. Email the show, hoopstemple@gmail.com. We appreciate you guys listening. Have a great day.
And if you haven't ended it, all right. Thank you so much, everybody, for your emails and comments. Much appreciated. We should really do more mailbag stuff. I find it so cool that people are willing to kind of participate in this with us.
Absolutely. That would be my goal for this podcast, is that I never have to come up with an outline again. I can just use your emails. So please
There you go.
make my dream a reality.